But keep that energy for a second. Don't lose that. Take a second and journal, just free write for a second. What's coming up and out right now? Free write that. Hold on to that. That's energy. Do you feel that? That's energy. Change your energy, change your life. Feel that. Free write on that for a second while I stream us into our group. Hold on to it. Don't you let that go. Don't you dare let that go. Hold it. Lean into it. Lean into it. And give me a second to share this with our groupie group. Hang on. Free write for a second. Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what. Okay, let's stream this in here. Hang on. Hold on to it. Hold on. Lean into that. Just hold it. Turn it up. More. 10% more of that. And free write on that. Free write. What's coming up? What's coming up? Okay, I'm going live in the group.
Your phone out.
Hang on. Keep going. 1 second. Get into it more, a little bit more. All right, that is streaming in there. Welcome, Facebook friends. We just did a little dance party. We do that at the beginning of the sessions. If you want to be in on those, you can meet us on Zoom. If you can't, you will always find us here streaming into the Facebook group once the song has completed. We do that for licensing rights. Okay, so now we're all here. Tell me one thing, for those of you in Facebook land who didn't get to hear, we were just drinking in the song A Million Dreams, the song from Greatest Showman, the version that Pink sang, and we were letting that really enter our hearts. And now we are free writing a little bit on what feeling came up. What was that? What was that experience? If whether it was 4 seconds or a whole minute, what was it? Even if it was a flash like lightning that helped you see a little break in the clouds, what was it? And you can put some of that in the chat if you want to. I could be so happy, joy, setting the fire under the rocket, love, infinite possibility, felt emotional, you're worthy, love, hopeful, yes, it's my time, yes, happiness, live out your dreams, inspiration, joy, starlight, hope, abundance, the power to design your world. Yes, she says, we're going to design a world we're going to make, exactly, possibility, nervous energy, believe in me, optimism, higher, expansion, yes, possibility, I could be myself, joy, we're crazy, she says. They can say we're all crazy, right? We've lost our mind. I don't care. I don't care if they call us crazy. We can live in a world that we designed. We can do this together. We can change the world. Yes, empowered. Yes, I'm so glad, Margie, you said you liked the breathwork session. You're still glowing. Excellent. Let's keep moving from that. There's no stopping me. Yes, hope, joy, uplifting, believe, dream. Okay, let me teach you something now, okay? So most of the time, we live in survival. Okay, let me explain. So typically we are constantly practicing reacting to our environment. We react to our mother-in-law. We react to our kids. We react to the traffic. Who knows what I'm talking about? Type a 1 in the chat if you ever have felt yourself get stuck in a reaction. Hell yes. 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 Let's start with the awareness of that. Okay. So what we understand is that if you were to see a deer, okay, and a hunter sends off a bullet in 1,000 yards away, and the deer hears that, the deer goes into what happens? What happens to an animal when an animal is scared? What happens? Yes, flight, right? Flight, fright, and freeze, panic. Okay, when that happens, all of its life force, all of its energy, where does it go? Out, not in, out, into its extremities. Pupils dilate, heart starts racing, boom, 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 boom. What do we call that? What is that called? What happens when we're in that place? That is called, yes, fight or flight, but what is it? What is fight or flight? Yes, cortisol. Yes, reactive, adrenaline. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, cortisol. Yes, you got it. Survival. That's called survival. Okay, here's the thing, my friends. The deer can live in that place for about 15 minutes. Hopefully 15 minutes or so later, it finds a little patch, a little clearing. You'll then notice it start to come down, get some self-regulation. And then what happens to that deer? If you pass that deer in the forest 30 minutes later, it's grazing, it's eating, it drops back into center, back into coherence. Why? Because it literally cannot stay in survival. It's poison. You're literally drinking out of an exhaust pipe when you drink in survival. You can't constantly be throwing all your energy into your extremities, building up that cortisol, having the rush of those feelings, self-doubt, shame, sadness, lack, worthiness, fight, flight, freeze, fight, flight, freeze. Like you cannot do that. But we do that. That's not loving to us. And here's the thing about this program and what you're going to find out. That's not creative because all the energy is going out, not in. Okay, so here's the deal. The song we just listened to, the feeling you just felt when you said joy, expansion, hope, something's coming. You know what's happening with there? Let me explain. All that energy that's going to your extremities when you're poisoning yourself, drinking in that cortisol, drinking in those thoughts that are so hardwired, and they're there to meet you every morning. You're like, that's my shame, that's my self-doubt, damn it, I don't want this every day. And you go back into it, which creates more sad feelings, which creates more of that cortisol. When you're in that place, all the energy is in the body and it's down, it's out in your extremities, and the body has memorized that. Yes, you understand this sympathetic nervous system versus your parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so here's what happens. By the way, your nervous system is plugged right into what? What other system is your nervous system plugged into? Who knows? Your nervous system plugs into your immune system. That's correct. That is correct. That's why all of the diseases, in some way we understand, come from the biology that is set off by the way that we trigger different cells and different proteins with the chemicals from our brain. Oh my God, what? Okay, so watch this. So what we just experienced when you were in that song and you were starting to feel like something feels like joy, something, you know why? Instead of that energy going out and focusing that energy on your spouse, on the traffic, on all the stuff externally, fight, flight, freeze, and boom, 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 you took that energy back in and it went into your heart and then up into your brain. And it's actually producing very fast gamma waves in your brain. And it's the equivalent of like an orgasm for your mind, for your heart. It's incredible. Yes. Did you feel that? Type a 1 if you felt a little bit of that lifting. Yes. That's how we get out of the state, the body's memorized state, and up into channeling it up, bringing it up, bringing it up, bringing it up out of the body, up out of the body, up out of the body. And we start to condition the body to a new mind, a new mind. Yes. And then that mind starts putting out the better things, dopamine, oxytocin, and your brain gets filled with it. And it's so good. Okay, here's the thing. We're going to start to move into this work. I want you to understand me when I tell you we cannot create from a place of lack and scarcity. Okay? We have to understand we already have it. We already have it. We just have not been focusing our attention on it. We've been focusing 95% of our life force on the external. We give all that attention to our mother-in-law. We give all that attention to the news. We give all that attention to our brother, all that attention, all that attention, all that attention. It's out there. We're putting it all out there instead of coming in here. It's got to go up into the heart. And then from the heart, it releases all that oxytocin into the brain. In here and up and up, up and up out of the body, up out of the body. And at first, me saying this to you is going to feel a little bit like it's hard to get your hands around, but I promise it is the most familiar feeling. And you'll know it when you start to feel yourself coming into it. So this is a process. This is a process. And it is a process of coming home and dropping back in and focusing that energy. Now, what we just experienced, right? That feeling of love and joy and expansion and all that. If that felt as good as that felt for that 1 second or 4 seconds, Type a 1 if you'd like to feel that way more often. Yes. Yes. And that's when we are not looking for love. We're not looking for the answer. We are in love. We are in the answer. We are in center. And when we drop into center from an open heart, and the heart starts to send that energy to the brain, and the brain starts to give us this space, it starts to produce oxytocin. And when that happens, the creativity just flows and flows. Does that make sense? And then this idea that you think is out there, that you have to go discover and find, instead, you realize you're going to uncover it because it's inside. It's right in here. But we're constantly putting all the energy out instead of taking it back and putting it into our heart, the extent of that energy. And then it starts to feel good and feel so good. And when we feel that good, we get super creative and we get so in center. And then we feel abundant and we feel grounded. And when we feel grounded and we feel abundant, we become a magnet for more of that. Like attracts like. There was a researcher from Yale in the 1940s that took a magnetometer and he wanted to measure the electromagnetic charge coming out of eggs, like all kinds of eggs, goose eggs and duck eggs and all kinds of eggs and reptile eggs. And 100% of the time, he found that the positive charge was at the top where the head was, and the negative charge was at the bottom 100% of the time. And that's also true for us. It's true for every living animal. When you have a positive and a negative charge, that makes a magnet. You create a field. But when there's no energy up here, because we've taken all the energy and just dropped it into our body of survival, we cannot create. There's no magnet. So I want you to really start to open your mind to maybe I'm starting to understand the way that I work and the way that this whole thing works. And maybe this doesn't have to feel like lack, like where's the answer? How am I going to get it? Maybe it's about moving in and understanding that the reason you've kept coming up with this feeling of sadness or emptiness or lack is because there is no energy up here and up here. It's all stored in the body. You're in survival most of the time. And we're going to move you out of that so that you can start to dance in what feels super easy and super creative. Type a 1 if this is making any sense. Okay, good. I'm throwing at you neuroscience and mindfulness work, as well as like my own just way of explaining what I've been through on my journey doing this work. And I know it's not what you hear on the back of every cereal box. And I know it's not what you're hearing on every Netflix show, but it's so good. And there's so much good research too that you can start doing. One of our students emailed me the other day and she said, can you send me an article that shows that we get addicted to the negative feelings based on the thoughts and how those thoughts create cortisol and things that are toxic, that we literally get addicted to negative thoughts. And I immediately said, sure. And I have a million places I pull these from, but I said, let me just Google this. And the first 3 were great. The next 8 articles were great. There's so much research here. So let this just be this world where we just approach this a different way. Let's just start approaching this a different way and congratulate yourself. You're here. You chose this. You found your way here. You do have the lights on. You're waking up. But essentially, what we're doing is we're trying to wake up from survival and from lack and from trying to answer questions without the lights on. We're trying to turn the lights on. And so, what I want you to do is, I want you to let go of lack. And when you let go of lack, you let go of trying to find the results. Instead, you get really curious about feeling into it. And so, we're going to start putting you through this process. We've already begun. You know, we said welcome week is welcome week. We didn't start. Of course we started. That's part of the starting, is getting acquainted And then we did this beautiful Sacred Sunday yesterday. This is all we've already started. But as we go through this, I want you to understand it's not as though if you don't get it by the end of week 1, you failed. This is a 12-week beginning. And then the next 12 weeks after that are more of adding to the process. It's all a journey to peeling that onion. Okay. So instead of saying, I'm behind because I didn't come out at the end of week 1 with a finite particle, with an answer, and it looks like this, this is a creative process and this is a journey home. And so instead of looking for this is the result, and if I don't have it, I'm in lack, I would start to say, like, it's about dropping in. And if you can drop in, it's not result driven, is it? Now you're in a state of joy. See, happiness is typically something that is tied to a result. And everybody wants to be happy, but the problem is they won't be happy until they have a result. And then they get that result and they move the goalpost. So happiness is not a thing that's easily sustainable. It's not a state of being. But joy is a little different because joy is not tied to a result. Joy is tied to, in the moment, feeling a shift, getting out of survival and into gratitude and into love and into creativity. And that's how I would measure your journey here. Let's keep moving us into the magnet. Let's keep moving out of the survival, out of the body, out of those old thoughts, so we can make some space and we can actually start to be pulling our future in as opposed to trying to go find it. Let's just pull it right in. Let it be easy. Type a 1 if you're still with me. I love you. I'm so happy that you are letting this in. And sometimes because this is unfamiliar and because we we are very much addicted to how we identify ourselves. It can be challenging. You can meet resistance and it's like, I don't want to come up and out of this feeling of survival and sadness and guilt because the story keeps me safe. Because if I keep focusing energy out here and blaming all these things and focusing energy out here, I don't risk meeting some greater unknown. And the unknown can be scary. So sometimes we stay in something that feels awful because at least it's not unknown. All right. So let's start to move into some more of this work. Melissa, I want to ask you to turn on your microphone.
I'm here. Hi.
What really does your sweatshirt say? Because mine says,
Mine says
love.
believe in love.
Oh my God, that's so weird and not weird at all.
We didn't plan it.
This is what I mean. It's a tennis match.
Love it.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay. Turning it to you. Let's go back and forth. Your turn.
Okay. All right. So this week we have a goal. But like Cathy said, it's not like, oh, if you don't meet the goal, you've lost or a lack or something. We just have a direction that we're moving. That probably is a better way of saying it. We're moving in a direction. And you may have seen this in the Facebook group. You may have seen it in your student portal this morning. If you haven't seen it yet, it's all good because you have all week to look at it. But we have a workbook that we created for you. So this is just a little bit of housekeeping. Our workbook is going to be posted in your student portal each week. There'll be a different, like, kind of a learning structure to kind of send you in a direction of tuning in, of self-awareness, of listening in, asking yourself some questions. We're going to do this work all throughout the week so that you can continue to uncover the answers that are already inside you. And the workbook is there as kind of a guide. If you've already downloaded it, great. If you haven't, don't even worry about it, but definitely have a pen and paper around you if you're not driving. If it's safe for you to do that, you can always go back and go through the writing process. But this is going to be a lot of what you're going to find on our content calls moving forward from this week through the 12 weeks is going to be a lot of writing and processing this. We want to walk you through the process because all the other business programs that are out there, they give you information. But the thing is that information is free. You can Google, if you did enough Googling, you could find the answers that are outside. But there aren't, as far as I know, as far as Cathy or Angela knows, there's no other program that asks you the questions to go in. And that's something you can't Google. There's no way to Google that stuff. So that's why you're here, because we're going to walk you through this process. So I'm going to share with you on my screen in a second. Let me get that set up, about what is in our, I don't want to do that. Hold on a second. What's in our workbook, because I want to call your attention to our framework. So hold on while I pull this up.
And while you're pulling it up, I just want to say that what's beautiful, I think, that we've been able to cultivate as a collective in this program, really, like, we've put all these pieces together, is that not only will we lead you into a journey of really coming home to yourself, but we absolutely will give you incredible information. But that's just the scratching of the surface, is what Melissa's saying. But I really have learned so much about what it takes to make those things be manifest, to really build a business. And I love teaching that stuff. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's easy. That part's easy. So you're going to get that, and you're going to really go, oh, that's not that difficult. Find a person, validate, proof of concept, make an offer, tweak, rinse, repeat. And we're going to tell you exactly what to do to start building engagement, visibility, get the lead. That is all coming. That is all what we're doing. But what we're also doing is sandwiching that with the energetic alignment. Because when you are aligned energetically, you'll actually be able to do that work. It will be easy. You won't be like walking through quicksand to get that done. And that's where we're pulling it all together. But here we're starting with the going into the self, right? And then as we build upon these 12 weeks, it gets more and more of a tangible, simple thing. And yet it's still coming back home to the self and continuing to refine and reapproach. Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what the workbook looks like. And obviously we start with trust the process, because there's a couple of really important words in here. There's trust, which requires a lot of vulnerability. It says, okay, I don't know all of the answers yet, but I trust that they're inside me. And I trust that going through the process of this, not running as fast as I can toward a destination, but walking through the process with the trust that I will be able to uncover an idea, an answer, to go through this process, and start learning stuff along the way. So I want to introduce to you the framework of how we go through a business building, what we do to build a business in this program. And this is called the Me to Do This People-Centered Business Framework. And PEOPLE is an acronym, and it stands for problem solving, empathy building, offering a solution, profit making, listening and learning, and executing on feedback. So as we go through these 12 weeks, we're going to go through these processes. And I don't want you in any way to think that week 1 is problem solving, week 2 is empathy building, and nice little package. No, this is a process. So as you are going through these 12 weeks, we're going to spend some time, and it's not like a hard, like this amount of time, but just some time giving you some nuts and bolts in each of these areas. And as you go through, after these 12 weeks even, you will find that you go through this process again and again and again and again. But this is a framework to help you conceptualize what's happening in this program, so that you can, in the future, once you've graduated from this program even, do it again for yourself, again and again and again and again, to help you uncover those ideas. So where we are starting in week 1 is right here around problem solving. And it's going to require us to start doing some deep introspection if you haven't done that already. And we're going to walk you through some really cool exercises to start doing this in just a second. But start to think like, what's a problem that I can solve? And you don't have to have an answer to that right now. Okay. So don't even worry. We're going to walk you through some things. But I just wanted to show you this so you can be grounded. We're going to review this each week, and I'll situate you where you are in the process so that you know, by the time that we're done with these 12 weeks, exactly like where to drop in and how to take your idea through. Almost like, I kind of think of it in a weird way, like a car wash. Like you're at the starting point and you take this idea through the wash or something and see what kind of comes out of it.
I just want to say one thing, Melissa, which is that, first of all, Melissa and I have been working on this, and she's such an incredible sounding board, and she's just a brilliant teacher. And I love that she said, Kath, I know what our mnemonic is. It's people, not a mnemonic, an acronym. And here's the thing, is that my point in this entire process of this program is to get you back to a sense of purpose, right? To help you contribute that which you came to the world to contribute. And we are each born to serve. We are built to serve. And we get to serve doing the thing that we're meant to do. For some people, they're going to serve by writing the best movies that make you cry your eyes out and help you feel through things. For some people, they're going to serve by making candles. For some people, they're going to serve by creating these beautiful tablescapes. We want to understand, though, that this whole thing is designed around contributing. We are most lit up. We know this about the human being. We're most lit up when we feel seen vis-a-vis doing something that makes an impact. So we are going to spend this process finding a way for you to feel that you are adding your signature, your imprint, you're letting your colors shine, you're adding your part to the puzzle so it's complete. And what I believe is that absolutely can be a business. For some of you, you might decide that the thing that lights you up most is opening some community garden, and that's all you want to do with it. And you're not interested in making that turn into something that would be profitable. I would challenge you around that, actually, because I would want to help you find a way to also bring in profit so that you can underwrite and help more people with more of that energetic resource called money. But I think sometimes we get really scared because up until now, we've thought business meant either we lose ourselves completely or we work really hard for somebody else. But we don't really understand that we can absolutely, in the realm of the continuum of the quantum field, in the realm of what's possible in this great big universe that was made by some higher intelligence, we can absolutely find a way to do something that we love that also is metabolized by another soul. And they say, thank you for showing up. Thank you for adding that. And we're going to show you how. Up until now, you've probably thought that you're either going to make a thing or work for someone else who makes a thing. But there's all these other ways now to make a business, talking about a thing, creating content around a thing, creating experiences around a thing, creating memberships, courses, retreats. Wow, there's all that. Plus, there is still the I want to make a thing. So we can make a thing, we can teach a thing, we can talk about a thing, we can serve someone by doing a thing, and we're going to keep looking at it. But where we're starting and where we're ending is people. It's about knowing that the difference between feeling fulfillment and not is feeling seen. And the beauty of humans is that we most feel seen when we've made an impact. So that empathy, that radical empathy for other people is right there at the front. It's also about people because we have to understand that the difference between a hobby and a business is that when it's a business, it means money is involved, money is exchanging, money is trading hands, value. And what that means is there is a person who wanted the thing that we made, who needed the thing that we made. And often when we think of problem solving, we think of curing cancer. Boy, wouldn't I like to do that. We think of making clean water. We think of ending human trafficking. And it pulls us right out of what really problem solving can look like, which is a much broader way to look at it. You can solve a problem by making these gorgeous throw pillows that have quotes on them or sweatshirts that say things like this. What problem does this solve? Well, there are times where I'm looking to wear something on my person and I want it to not just be a shirt. I want it to say something because this absolutely made me feel different than if I was just wearing a red shirt. That solves a problem called how I set an intention for the day. What if you were making these rings? What problem does this solve? Well, there are going to be moments when the question that's being needing to answer by a person is I need to buy something for someone and I want something that's like hammered gold that looks a little bit vintage but it's still modern, solving a problem, creating a brand, creating a story that this is not just a piece of metal, but it tells a story about how you feel about yourself. Everything solves a problem. We need to just understand that the realm of solving problems is beautiful and vast. And there have been many times where you've gone out on a Saturday night pre-COVID, and your favorite part of Saturday night was walking that little strip of your main street where there's a gallery and an ice cream shop and a bead store. And it definitely solved the problem of how do we make this town feel like a town? So we're going to keep pulling these layers back. And instead of going, why can't I do this? And where's the answer? See if you can just start to say, clues are all around me. I'm going to trust that I will be led right to it because it's already here. It's not out there and it's not unsolved. It's solved and it's in here. Okay, Melissa, go.
Okay, had to unmute myself. So I want to show you back into the workbook that these are fillable right here. And so as you're listening today to the content session, and as you move through your week, I want you to know that you can add notes to all of these things, okay? As I'm going through the workbook, you can see that week 1 is arrive at an idea. It's not the big idea. It's not, oh my gosh, like 8 million ideas. It's not figure out your one idea. It's just arrive. We have a direction that we're heading, and we'd like for you to arrive at an idea, and we're going to help you get there. So, Kath, do you want to walk us through this prayer really quick? Because those are your beautiful words, and I would love for you to. Can you see it?
First of all, yes. And first of all, it is so frustrating. Let me just say that we don't have 26 words to explain God, higher intelligence, source, spirit, frequency, because words are very burdened and they don't mean the same thing for every person. And so it can be triggering. I mean, I'm a Jewish person, right? So God to me is this oneness, this field, this source, right? It means something different to a Hindu person or a Christian person, but yet we all meet in the same place. So it doesn't bother me because I'm kind of aware of that. But I want you to use the word that feels good to you. Heidi, my best friend, one of my best friends, she always says like spirit, source. Great, right? It doesn't matter. Joe Dispenza says the divine, right? The field, whatever. It doesn't matter. All we know is there is something energetic and there is a great unknown and there is a magnet and we know it. You know that if you put 2 clocks side by side on a wall and one is a few seconds ahead of another, when they put them on the wall, they actually start to sync up. You know that if you put 2 girls together and they move into a college dorm, their periods will wind up lining up. There is a magnet, my friends. We are constantly being pulled to each other and to something bigger up and out. In fact, when I was studying at UCLA in the Mindfulness Center, they did this study, which they were very interested by because they decided to do prayer in the UCLA hospital. And they found that people improved 100%. And they looked at the data and they said, well, if we would have given them something else and they improved, we would have been very hard pressed to ignore that data. So why would we ignore this data? We can't ignore it. Our cultural biases for some of us might want us to ignore it. But if we are being actual real scientists, we probably shouldn't ignore the fact that their white blood cell count improved when they were in a state of prayer for 10 days straight. Okay, we found the same thing true for meditation. We actually know now, we can measure it, that meditation and prayer both help the human being physiologically. They change so many things in the biology of a person. If we're really being honest and having integrity as humans and scientists, we don't close our mind to hard evidence. Okay. So, but it doesn't matter to me what word you use, because that's where you're going to get tripped up for no reason. So I want you to use whatever word. Hang on, I gotta get some muting going on. I want you to use whatever word feels good to you. Source, higher intelligence, God, spirit, the unknown. Okay. So, dear God, Please open us up to see our potential and help us say yes to our bigger purpose. Help us, right? Believe in it deeply. Please, source, spirit, God, higher intelligence, help us usher in this epic life so that we can contribute at our highest level. Please, source, God, divinity, use my life to be a light in this world. And that is the prayer so that you're syncing up with this magnetic field, so that you're syncing up with it. And I want you to ask it. I want you to challenge that higher frequency, whatever that higher intelligence is, whatever you want to call it. I want you to challenge it and say to it, if I open my heart, the eye of a needle, if I start to walk into that magnet, I want you to show me synchronicity so that without a shadow of a doubt, I know I'm moving in the right direction. Ask it and you'll see it. Everybody wants magic. Everybody wants magic. But the problem is, my friends, they don't believe in magic. And we only will see that which we are available to see. And I'm going to tell you what, the people who you admire, whether it's Jim Henson or Beyonce or any creative or any person, they're open to believing in magic. They know there's some flow. They're doing it. Jerry Seinfeld meditates twice a day, 2 times a day. Do you think that has any bearing on the success, on his frequency, on the way that he moves the world? Absolutely, it does. We know that Phil Jackson sat with the Lakers and with the Bulls and said, sit your butt down. I want you to fall in love with that future. See it. Train your body to feel what it's going to feel like to anticipate making that jump shot. See it happening. See it happening. And what happened? He's untouchable. Best coach of all time. Why? He understands there's something else besides the body, besides the physical world. Call it whatever you want, but let's get that we're not made of matter. We're made of energy, and we're trying to sync up with it. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So we are entering into a process of building a business. And like Cathy said, we are made of energy. So there's this beautiful blend here in these 12 weeks of energetic work and business building work. And we're going to do both. It's like just syncing up head and heart and soul all together so we can be in alignment and create this beautiful thing, so that we can serve in our higher purpose. And so this week, we're starting with step 1 of the people-centered business approach. And we're going to ask ourselves in many, many different ways, what is a problem that we can solve? And by the end of the week, the direction that we're headed is that you will come up with an idea, or you will uncover an idea, something that's been living inside of you. Okay. And we're going to help you through that. It doesn't have to be the one thing you do forever. It just needs to be one thing that you don't hate and you do not dread. Okay. The answers are within you. And clarity comes from action. So we are going to step into a really cool exercise that is going to require you to get messy, to be a C student. And it's called rapid ideation. Rapid ideation is something that happens in design thinking, which is out of Stanford, where, Silicon Valley, where there's just like tons of rapid outside of the box ideas coming out of Silicon Valley. And we're going to dip our toe into that. Rapid ideation helps us build our creativity, and it can lead to very highly innovative, unanticipated solutions. I actually did this process myself last week, and I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that to come out. And I've been doing this work for years. You guys, I've already built like multiple businesses, and I was like, well, isn't this cool? I didn't see that coming. And it's because of this like process of just kind of letting go of the judgment, letting go of the limitations, dropping into that abundant thinking, and just going pen to paper. So you guys know how I feel. I've already said this a bunch of times. You know how I feel about pen to paper. If you did not print out your workbook, that's okay. Grab a blank sheet of paper, because we want this to come through our body. We want it to come out and through our fingertips and write it on a page. There's something really beautiful and actually like research-driven neurological that happens when we write. So we want you to do that, okay? I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I really want your eyes on your paper.
1, 2.
There we go. Thanks. I want your eyes on your paper, and I just want you to start thinking, okay? And feeling. Take a couple deep breaths. Ready? Okay, now I'm going to acknowledge the elephant in the room, because arriving at one idea, not the perfect idea, not the best idea, can really be triggering. And you can think, okay, how am I going to get this right? I got one shot. I need to get this right. And that's just not the truth. Okay. The answers are inside you. You might also be thinking, oh my gosh, I love so many things. How am I ever going to pick? And that's okay too. We're going to start recording. Okay. So I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to ask you one question at a time. And as I ask you this question and I set the timer, I want you to write down as many things that come through to you. Do not judge. Whatever comes out on the page is perfect and coming up exactly in the moment that it's supposed to. Okay, here we go. The first question that I'm going to ask, and I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute, and you just write as many things as you can think of, is, what do you love? 1 minute on the timer. Get ready and go. That wasn't the timer, sorry. Keep going. Okay. Can you hear me? Did you hear the timer go off? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. My kids are screaming downstairs in the background. So I'm muting myself in between. Okay. So what do you love? We're going to add to this list. But what I'd like for you to do is just look over your list, and I want you to type one thing in the chat that you wrote. Just one thing. Go ahead and type that in the chat. Okay. Drumming, mountains, nature, joy, yoga, helping others, laughing, woodworking, shopping, help, collaborating. These are so good. Okay. We're going to continue adding to this list. This is not a separate list. I'm going to ask the same question, but in a different way. Okay. So pick up your pen right where you left off. This is so good, you guys. I love it. We're going to add to the list. And the next question is, what do you geek out over? Like, if you're flipping through the channels on cable and there's a show about something, what are you like all in? Like, you could talk about it forever, and maybe some of your friends don't even get it, but like, you could geek out over something for hours. You go to the library and you want to read all the books on that thing. I'm going to set the timer for a minute, add to your list. What do you geek out over? Ready, go. Okay, time right there. Type one thing in the chat that ended up on your list. Just out of curiosity, what do you geek out over? Home design, Enneagram, fashion, Home improvement, books. Cool. So good. This was harder. Yeah. Some of these questions are going to resonate. Some of them might be a little bit stumping, but they're just lots of paths that we're going to just try out. Did I just see somebody type retail math? That is very cool. I don't even know what that means, but I'm into it. I saw snowscape photography. So cool. Look at what we bring to the table. This is just so fun. We get to like hang out with the coolest people on the planet doing this work. Okay. Next question. Pick up your pens. We're going to add to the list. And the question is, what energizes you? You have a minute. What energizes you? Ready, go. Okay. Now there were some questions on that. Energize as in question mark. How do you interpret energizing? Like this is for you to ask yourself. So there's not a right answer to this. This is just when do you feel like energetic about something? And if you didn't write anything on your list for that question, no big deal. If you did and you added something new to your list, type it in the chat. And then I have one more question to add to our list. And then we're going to do a little bit of thinking about our thinking. Okay. The last question, and we're going to write this again in our notes. So pick up your pens if you haven't yet. And the last question is for this list is, what do you enthusiastically volunteer to do? So when someone goes, hey, can anybody help me what do you enthusiastically raise your hand for and say, me, I can totally do that. That's so fun. 1 minute on the clock. What do you enthusiastically volunteer for? Go.
Melissa, you're muted.
Thank you. My hope is, sorry, the timer went off. My hope is that you have a pretty decent sized list. And if you can add one thing into the chat that came up for what do you raise your hand to volunteer for enthusiastically, you can do that. Okay. Manual labor, connecting with others, working with dogs, writing content, coaching. Okay. Amazing. 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 Okay. So these 4 questions were many paths to uncovering the things that you love, the things that you get excited about, the things that light you up. So what I want you to do is read back through your list, and I'm going to ask you one question, and there's no right answer to this. It's just curiosity. What's something you notice? Read through all of the things that you just wrote in those 4 minutes and ask yourself, what do I notice? And jot down your answer in your notes. Write it out with your hand first. What do you notice? Okay, some of the things that are coming up I see in a chat is, should I worry that my lists are short? No, you shouldn't, because we're not even done. You're just dipping your toe in the water. You're just starting the process of uncovering that well and saying, where is it? I'm ready to find it. It's in me. I know it is. I'm just peeling back the layers. Okay. So if you don't notice anything, if you see no connection between some of the things, it's okay. Don't even worry. You could just say, I didn't really notice anything. Okay. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Some of you are seeing that there is a connection between some of the things that you love. Wide variety of interests. Right. Okay. Great. Okay. Do we want to shake it out a little bit? We've been writing a little bit a long time. Okay. Like move your body, shake it out. Let's get situated. Ooh. Whatever you need to do. Shake your face. Have you ever seen those pictures where people shake their face? It's like, ugh. Okay. Now, I'm going to have you pick up your pen and your paper again, and you'll notice that in the workbook, if you're looking at the workbook, there's another list that you can write. Okay? And list 2 is really trying to uncover the things that we are good at. And I'm going to ask you some questions to do more rapid ideation. We're going to spend 1 minute with a few questions, and we're going to do the same process again. Okay, this list, you might need to turn the page in your workbook or get to a new page in your journal, wherever you're writing. Okay, wherever you're writing. List 1 is what do you love? List 2 is what are you good at? Okay, and I'm going to ask you the questions to do rapid ideation. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. There are just ideas. That's it. Okay, here we go. You're going to have 1 minute on the clock, and we're just going to write as many things as that comes up for us. What have people told you in the past that you are good at? Ready? 1 minute. Go ahead. Okay, pause wherever you are. We're going to add to this list. If you feel comfortable writing down one thing that came up for you in the chat, you can. Listening, decorating, YouTube, teaching, willpower. It's very interesting. I find this endlessly interesting, what you guys are all writing. This is so cool. Talking, organization, creating fun, teaching, learning new things, listening, resiliency, storytelling. Oh, so many clues. We're finding more and more clues on the journey. It's very exciting. Okay, next thing. We're adding to the list. Pick up your pens, put the pen to paper. The question is, what do you feel like you're good at? What do you feel like you're good at doing? Ready? Go. Okay, pause right there. If you feel comfortable typing one of the things that you added to your list in on the chat, you can. Researching, teaching, being creative, connecting to people, momming, encouraging people, seeing patterns, cheerleading, being resilient, coaching, memorizing stuff. Interesting. Okay, this is so good. So good. Now this next question, I think is a really fun one. And I had my husband, we were doing this together last week. And when I asked him this and he did his list, I was like, okay, tell me what's on it. And he didn't write what I thought he was going to write, which was being a great dad. And he's like, nope, didn't talk about being a dad at all. And I was like, what? That's so weird, because that's how I perceive him, but not what he was perceiving for himself. So this is just like all fascinating, super fascinating stuff. Okay. The next question, which is kind of fun. If you were to make up an award for yourself, like imagine you're walking across the stage and it's like the Emmys or the Oscars or the Tonys or whatever the award is. And you're like, yes, I gratefully accept this award. Think of as many of those titles as you can. What is an award that you accept for being the best at it? And they can be as funky and as creative as you want to, okay? Write down as many award titles that you would be so grateful to receive. Okay? Pen to paper in your notes. Ready? 1 minute on the clock. Go. Okay. Now, I'm seeing in the chat people saying, oh my gosh, this is my introvert's hell. I don't want to walk across the stage receiving an award. That's fine. I think I would be super nervous and sweaty too. Like that makes me like feel nervous. The idea with this question is, what do you want to be recognized for? Like what award would you give to yourself? What crown would you put on your own freaking head because of your life curriculum, of the stuff that you've already learned up until this point? If you feel comfortable, if you've added something onto your list that you want to type in the chat, go ahead and do it. If you didn't get anything for this question, no big deal. Remember, these are all paths to discovering, uncovering what's already inside of you. Okay. Most creative mind, and greatest humanitarian, comedian, best sound healer, greatest connector, best mom award. These are awesome, you guys. Look at what cool humans are in this community. Most prepared traveler. I'm not that person. I'll tell you that much. I need help with that. Best world traveler, most inspirational. Amazing. You guys, this is so good. Okay. I want you to read through this list now, the list of the things that you're good at. And take your pen to paper and just ask yourself, after reading through my list, I notice that. What's one thing you notice? Are there any connections there? Are there disconnections there? What's one thing that you notice? And when you feel comfortable, if you can, write one thing that you noticed in the chat. I noticed that I have what it takes to win that award. Oh my gosh, amazing. communication is a common thread. I like to inspire people. Kids and writing are a common theme. Okay. So what I'm hoping that you're starting to see here is what we're doing is helping you uncover stuff and then make some connections with that. Okay. We have one more list that we're going to work through. And it's
Before
going
you
to
do
take
that list, I'm going to
Yeah,
share
please.
something with them.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's so much fun. Don't you love doing this? I just love doing this. Like my paper is like completely full and I'm having the best time.
Love it.
Melissa's been with me in this program for a year and she just keeps coming up with, hey, how about this? And I'm like, it's so good, Melissa. Here's what I want you to get. Okay. The thought that you're supposed to pull out from your mind or from any paper or any list, a business is a lie. That's not how businesses are built. Businesses are built by testing ideas and seeing if they resonate with people, and then seeing what part of that idea is a business. And so the point is to start with an idea of a direction around a topic, around a thing. And then we're going to show you, don't worry, you won't be on your own to guess. We're going to show you something very specific to deliver and to say to another person with this idea. And from putting this idea in the world in a specific way, you're going to get feedback, which is going to lead you to where that other human actually meets your idea and where that might actually start into being a business. Now, here's something else I want you to get. Very often, the reason why people say to me, I don't know how many times a day, I listen to your podcast and I love it. I don't know what my thing is. I don't know what my thing is because you don't see. I want to give you new glasses so you can see. You don't see businesses in all of the things that you wrote, but I do. I see a business in every single thing that you typed. And I'm going to be here, and so is Melissa, and so is Angela, and so are all the mentors, to continue to show you those lenses through which you can see. And I'm going to give you just a couple examples right now, rapid fire, and then we're going to go back into another list. But I think it's going to help you get some oxygen and feel where you're meeting this, which just seems to be random. It's not. Let me give you an example. So my friend Michelle Poehler wanted to overcome her own fears, and she was obsessed with it. She was obsessed with it. And so had she done this list, she might have discovered or uncovered, let's say, that she wanted to tackle her anxiety, that she was always helping her friends to show up for things like that. She created an entire movement, a whole world called Hello Fears, where she started going on YouTube and saying, today I'm going to do this week, I'm going to tackle saying something that's hard for me to say. Let's see if I can do it. And she blogged about it, video blogged about it, vlogged about it. Next week, it might have been, today I'm going to try a food that I'm afraid to try. Another time it might have been, I'm going to jump out of an airplane. It turned into a community. It turned into a movement. It turned into a book. It turned into a membership. It turned into money, and it turned into powerfully helping people move through their fear. That became a business. Okay, stay with me for a second. My friend Kara, who was actually at one point also a mentor in this program, she loves food and she loves making cheese boards. And she found that other people did too. And she made a business around cheese board styling.
Food.
And so she
And
would
she
go
loves
into,
making cheese boards.
I don't know how to find people sometimes. I found it. So she would create events where people would pay to come to a cheese board styling evening. Sometimes she was hired by Google to fly up to San Francisco and do a cheese board styling workshop for corporate. Sometimes she would be doing it for Rag and Bone, which is a women's clothing line. Sometimes she would do it in somebody's house. Sometimes she would do it for herself in different workshop settings. Made a whole business around cheese board styling and actually published a book called Toast, all about different kinds of toast, avocado toast, this toast, that toast, became a whole business. Let me give you another example. Malcolm Gladwell. Do you know how often people quote Malcolm Gladwell to me and they think that he is a psychologist? Type a 1 in the chat if you thought that Malcolm Gladwell was a psychologist or a sociologist? Some of you did. Some of you might not know who he is. And some of you might have been like, no, he's not. He's a journalist. And he loves researching things, loves it. His enthusiasm is not about being a sociologist or a psychologist. His enthusiasm is about looking at all the things sociologists and psychologists have already found and then assimilating all that information, putting it all together and giving it to us. And so he is one of the best-selling authors of all time. And what was his credential to start to speak out all of this wisdom? Well, he just told you wisdom that somebody else already wrote, but he does it in a really cool way. And now he's the genius, right? He's the authority. He doesn't have a degree in psychology, not one degree, not even a master's. Okay, let me give you another example. My friend Amy Tangerine, that's her like stage name. That's her brand, but she's Amy Tan. Okay, Amy loves scrapbooking. She loves hand lettering. Actually, what's interesting is the very first clue she had was that she was going to make a t-shirt line. And she was one of the first people to ever, this is almost 20 years ago, she was putting words on t-shirts like hope, like just like what Melissa and I are wearing that's now everywhere. She did that, embroidered words on t-shirts and sold them to Kitson, which is like a boutique shop in LA where a lot of people go. They bought 10 of them on wholesale. A week later, Madonna walked in, bought all 10, and they said, can we have 10 more? She then started selling it to other places, spas, and then she wound up selling it to Bloomingdale's and Neiman Marcus. And she built it to a 7-figure business, but it was a hard business because it was a lot of grinding and making and redelivering. And the margins weren't huge and it was exhausting. And she was doing well, but she was tired. And then she was passing by on Pico in LA, a scrapbooking place, a place she had passed many times. And she walked into the shop and she said to the woman who owned the place, I don't know anything about scrapbooking, but I love making things. And what I love about scrapbooking is I like to savor and go back and think about yumminess that happened in my day. And I would love to learn how to show up for my day at the end of my day so I could really drink in what happened in my day. And she said, the woman said to her, what do you do? And she said, I make t-shirts. And she showed her pictures of the t-shirts. And the woman said, I don't know how to do that. Could we trade? Can I show you how to scrapbook? And can you show me how to embroider t-shirts? And so it started that way. It went on to be that Amy has her own sticker line. She has different, she works with American Craft. She works with lots of people, but the main way that she makes all this money is that she has her own platform and she's literally gone to almost every continent in the world. She's gone to Peru. She's been to Hawaii. She's been to Ireland. She's been to New Zealand. She's gone all over the world leading scrapbooking workshops. Sometimes she gets asked to speak at conferences, but sometimes she gets paid by Dove Soap. And they say, can we give you 15 grand to show up for a day? All expenses paid. You can spend the whole weekend in Maui. We just need you for one day to lead a workshop for our executives and have them scrapbook something. And she's like, sounds good. Like, I want you to get that when you put things in here, like I hold space for people really well. I love to love. I love to feel. I love to listen. I have another friend who realized that his gift was creating a space for people to have really good conversation. So he created a thing called connected conversations, and they would host dinner parties for strangers. And all that would happen at the party is that there was a table question and people were obsessed. It became this supper club where people wanted to go. It was once a month and it would sell out right away. And you could come knowing that by the time you left, you would have made a friend or more than one friend, and you would have had a deep, meaningful, enriching evening. And people paid to have that experience. So I literally have a list of like so many things written here that are examples of all the things that you guys were saying. But boy, do I wish that you could, again, instead of thinking the thought, I just don't know, or I don't have it, if you could flip that thought to the clues are here and I know it's here, you could get excited and curious and start to really look for the evidence of what I'm saying to you right now. And you can start to find today on Instagram, for instance, like within 10 minutes, you could probably find 10 people who do a thing that is based upon something crazy that you wrote down, and their whole world revolves around it. Like they take people into the outdoors and they get paid to host campfires and to bring in interesting things and to go bird watching. I mean, all of this exists. All of this is in the field. And when we turn all the lights on and we get our enthusiasm, that's our creative mojo. You're going to be able to build a world where you're going to get paid if you want to. You can find a way, I promise, to get paid to build a world around something that just you could do it all day. You could do it all day. And the cost of admission is the enthusiasm, because Malcolm Gladwell does not have authority around his research. He just shares with you other people's research. And that's completely okay in our society to do that. My mindfulness teacher, Susan Kaiser, she was a lawyer who was burnt out, whose son was taking ADD medication. And she, after a while, didn't want to give him ADD medication and thought there must be another way, and started to take some time off of lawyering to look at mindfulness and to see what could be done. And she didn't see enough research being done around children and mindfulness. And so she decided to see if she could gather some researchers and make enough of a stink that she could help make that research come to life. And she went to UCLA and she said, let's go into the lab school. Let's get some scientists. Let's get some money behind this. She's a lawyer. She's a civilian. She's not a monk and she's not a psychologist, but she cared enough to curate and put together this kind of a thing. She's now written 3 best-selling books on mindful children, and she's brilliant at it. Marie Kondo has an entire process of finding joy in your things, and it's a world. And she doesn't have to be given a certification by, the king of the world. She can just be doing what she's doing. Like, we've disempowered ourselves because we don't even begin to look at the clues, because we've already decided these clues will equal 0. That we really conditioned ourselves to believe that the only way I could take something out of these clues is if somebody else gave me permission, somebody else gave me a degree, somebody else gave me something. It's not enough. I can't sell a cheese board styling workshop. I can't sell a dinner with table topics. I can't sell organizing people's home and finding joy. I can't sell those things. Those are not businesses, Kath. Businesses should not feel great. They should be hard. They should be real problems you solve. No one's going to pay me for any of those things. And in my world, just so we're clear, the millionaires and billionaires, the people that I spend my time with, are all doing these kinds of things. They're not doing what your parents and grandparents showed you was the way to make a living. Is any of this making sense? So if you're saying, oh my God, I love storytelling. I have a friend who created a storytelling evening. People would come together and their assignment was to tell a story from their life. Next thing she knew, she started charging $20 for people to watch. And then they picked 10 people an evening and it became huge. And they started renting out Fairfax High School gymnasium because it got so big and there was a line around the door, and then people would have to sign up if they wanted to be there the next time because they couldn't get in. And we're talking about the simplest thing of just curating an evening where 10 people got up and told a real story from their life. And I'm telling you, I've been to it. I've seen so many kinds of theater, improv, movies. I've lived in LA 18 years. It was the most powerful. I would go back to it over again, over again. I would rather hear 10 humans get up and be vulnerable and share a story from their life. Wow, was that powerful. And she wound up making $5,000, $10,000 every month from doing something she would have done for free, which then turned into something else, which then turned into something else. Then there were derivatives of it. People were doing it in other places. It's amazing how we just don't open up the shutter to see beyond this very myopic view of what is possible. And so part of this process is just really getting clear that if you rise up and you meet an idea with full enthusiasm, you can teach people how to make floral designs, and that can be your whole world. Yes, it can. And I can show you how to do that in a way where you actually make a lot of money doing it. Because why, if you're going to do it, you may as well make good money doing it. And that's about working smarter and working on and not as much in the business. And we'll show you how to do that. But it is here. Who's ready to roll up their sleeves? Who's getting excited? Type a 1 if that started to jar some stuff open for you. Because literally I have a list of like 8 names right here. And if I would have had more minutes, I could have filled up a page front back of like a whole notebook of examples for you of human beings that I know who happily do the things that they love. And there's no frickin' degree. There's no anything. It's just pure love, pure wanting to do something. But they tried by starting with an idea, testing it with a human, going back, tweaking, going. I also want to say one other thing to you, which is I was just interviewing Adam Grant for the podcast a second time. He's a very smart guy, best-selling author, teaches at Wharton, has a podcast called TED Talks. He said that in the research about people who are considered super predictors, there are people who are super predictors. They can predict human behavior. They can predict the stock market, and they're right. They're right most of the time. Those are considered the people in our society that are super predictors. There's a whole world of these people. It's fascinating. He said, do you know what the research shows about what makes you a great super predictor? Take a guess. What do you think does the research show that makes the super predictors super predictors? You're going to love this. You're going to love this. Nobody has said it yet, I don't think. Oh, it's starting to come out a little bit. They change their mind 4 times from the time they're asked to the time they give a final prediction. They're willing to be excited about seeing it new. And they're not like, oh, I have shame that I was wrong. They're like, I'm going to say a thing and I'm going to change my mind probably twice as many times as people who are not super predictors. And I'm going to allow that. And I'm telling you, my friends, that every person I know, I just told you, Amy started in t-shirts, moved into scrapbooking, moved into events, it's really cool, actually. There's so many other steps of that process. At one point, the very first thing she was doing was going to birthday parties and saying to a parent, I'll scrapbook the event while the event is happening. And she would get paid to go to a birthday party. And she was actually once at Pink's daughter's birthday party, scrapbooking Pink's daughter's event. It's just, she had all these different pivots. There's so many things I could share with you. I'm just flooded with all this yummy, delicious nuggets of all these different incarnations of these possibilities. But the point being, we have to be willing to walk into a river that is constantly dynamic and it's moving, and the pivoting is a good thing. And we release the shame and we move into curiosity and science mind of like, I love when I find out that I maybe saw it wrong, because now I can see it right. I like beginner's mind. I like being able to tease it out. It's the people who have shame who say, if I said it once, how dare I go back? If I already tried doing this thing, how dare I change it? I'll never get it. No, that's actually not where we find the success. The success is the resilience to tolerate what is uncomfortable in most people's psyches around pivoting and changing. And people who've known me for a long time, my team can tell you I'm constantly ideating. And if they say it different and I go, oh, I like that better, I'm like, let's change it. I'm not like, wait, I like that better. And I already said this. What will my audience think? What will I say? What does it mean about me? No, I'm like, this is so exciting. I now see it new. Oh my God, it's a prism. I'm now seeing it from another side. Like, it's so delicious to me how it's constantly happening for me, through me, to me, and it evolves. Look how much this program is evolving as we speak. Yes, that's what I want. I don't want a river that stands still. I want it to keep moving. So I want you to embrace that this is a journey and it's not linear. There's no straight lines in nature. And we are going to keep going back and revisiting what we think we know. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to question whether what you know is what you know to be true. Go back, revisit. First draft is never the draft. That should never be your draft. That's why you do it as quickly as you can. That's why you don't overthink a first draft, because no one publishes it. Who cares? Do you know that by the time Brene Brown's book was a bestseller, she had had that book out for years? It didn't matter if the book launch wasn't a success. She was learning how to speak out what the book was about. And by the time she got it, she got it. But we're always in beta. Know that what you know will change. And you'll want to revisit. Is this really what I know to be true? Oh, it moved again. Cool. Where is it now? Right? That's why if you are result driven, you're really not here for the big prize. The big prize is unlocking the amount of vastness that is actually within you. And no, you're not going to get it from an exercise in a week looking at a thing, but you will get it if you step into this river and you commit to following where the river leads. 100% you'll get it, and you'll wind up. The river will take you where you never believed it would. I wrote down for my things, like, what do I love to do? What am I good at? It always kept coming up. I like love. I like to love people. I like to listen to people. I like to empower people, speak to people, storytelling. Look at what I do, right? I didn't even know this. I couldn't see this, but I was like, I like to sing. I guess I better be famous and be a singer. And if I can't be, I guess then the only other choice is to go do something I hate. And thank God I kept like picking at that question. Is that true? Is that really true? How do I know it's true? What else could it be? What else could it be? And I'm so much happier doing this than being a rock star, because when you're a rock star, it's like you're Ariel from The Little Mermaid. They're like, you get these clamshells on your boobs, I mean, think of it. They make them into characters. Like even Pink, like, don't you think she's tired sometimes of being Pink and having a certain way she dresses? Look at Elton John. It's like, here he comes. It's a costume. He has to sacrifice his life in a way to do a show for us. Maybe he's totally fulfilled that way. I don't think I would have been, because I don't really want to play a part. I want to be myself. Matthew McConaughey said to me 2 months ago, Kath, I want to do what you're doing. I don't want to play myself. I want to be myself. That's why he's teaching at University of Austin right now. That's why he's on any podcast he can get on. That's why he wants to write a book. He wants to be himself. So that's his journey. That's my journey. The point being, it's gonna lead you beyond what you know that you know. Okay? Type a 1 in the chat if you are getting it. Yes, that's all I ask. Beginner's mind, dropping in. Who's starting to think? Who's starting to think? Type a 2 in the chat if you're starting to have an inclination that doing this kind of work for the next 12 weeks might lead you home or closer to home. There it is. Good. Okay, Melissa, let's finish things up with your next list.
Finish things up. This is amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to write some more things. Okay. We're next step of the process. And so I want you to get your pens ready. I want you to get your paper ready. And I'm going to ask you to write for another 3 minutes in 1 minute increments to help you continue to move that sand off the well. Okay. So the question is, are we ready with our pens? The question is, in your opinion, in your humble opinion, what does the world need? What does the world need? Respond to that, as many answers as you can come up with in 60 seconds. Ready, go.
You're muted.
How about that? Did you guys hear the timer? Okay. You have permission to continue adding to this list as ideas come to you throughout the week. Maybe you're driving somewhere and you're like, oh, yeah, the world needs that too. Add to your list. This is not just, you're not going to have all of the answers today while we're sitting here. That's what, Cathy keeps on saying. Just drop in. Here's another question, pen to paper. 60 seconds, as many ideas that flow through you, just jot them down, no judgment. What breaks your heart? What are the things that break your heart? Ready? Go. Okay. If you feel comfortable adding one thing that you've written so far on your list to the chat, go ahead and do that now. Lonely people, eating animals, oppression, hurt people, suffering, judgment, cruelty. Okay. Excluding people, bullying, hopelessness. You guys are all such caring, wholehearted people. Do you see this? Like there's so many things that are out there that are like I think that our pain can often give us clues toward our purpose. And we can say, you know what, this thing really breaks my heart. When I started my business Compliment, what broke my heart is that I had all these beautiful, talented students sitting in front of me in the classroom who did everything that I had asked them to do. They were so bright, filled out all of the things, took all the tests, and they couldn't afford their next step. That broke my heart so bad. I wanted to do something about it. And it turned into a jewelry company. Like, what? I'm not even good at doing jewelry. This is what Cathy is saying, right? It's just taking the action toward the thing, and we're dipping our toe in to realize some of these things that are coming up. I have one more question, pen to paper, breathe into it. As many ideas as come to your head, add it to your list, as many or as few, doesn't matter. What, in your opinion, needs fixing? What needs fixing? 60 seconds. Add to your list. Start now. Okay. I want you to look over your list. Read through that list and notice something, anything, no right or wrong answers. What do you notice from this list? Write it down first. And then if you feel comfortable, you can type it into the chat. Okay. Empathy, lack of hope, mindset, broken, pain-filled people, throwaway culture, caring for single moms, wanting more people to live their dream life, debt, global issues, business, disconnects, the church. Okay, this is leading us closer and closer. Remember, these are all clues. These are all clues for you. So these 3 lists, if they are acting as clues, I want you to be in this mindset that we're welcoming all the clues that we see from these experiences when we're driving around town and we see a bumper sticker on a car, when we hear a song and one line stands out, everything. When we are dropped in, they're all clues as to where we're headed, to the direction of the thing that we're just going to try and iterate. It's all meaningful, even the random stuff, even the painful stuff, it's all meaningful, and we can all mine that for meaning. So ask yourself, what is there to learn here? And we're just getting curious. What is there to learn here? Okay. So I want to show you a graphic really quick, and it's in your workbook. And we're not going to spend a ton of time here, but I want to explain it. Let's see, share screen. Can you see that? The Ikigai? Okay, this is in your workbook. Okay, we just brainstormed 3 of these 4 bubbles. We brainstormed what we love, what we're good at, and what the world needs. So this week, our self-discovery, or the uncovering of self, or the working interpersonally with our pods on the implementation call, this week, we're going to really be focusing on what we can be paid for. And I want you to see everything that you wrote essentially in these 3 bubbles that we've already brainstormed on our list. I want you to see those as puzzle pieces that are all in a box. But you know how a traditional puzzle, there's only one right way to put it together? This is not that kind of puzzle. This is a puzzle of the infinite. This is infinite possibilities puzzle, because the way you piece things together, there's infinite possibilities. Our job is just to find something that gives us purpose and we don't hate, that we could spend time doing something and making money doing that thing so we can give and contribute more to the world and help more people. But that feels so massive. Like, okay, cool. In a week, I'm just supposed to figure out my life's purpose. I can't do that. No, you can't. We're just looking at clues, and it doesn't have to be this week. This is the process that we are working toward for the rest of our lives. So this week, our goal, our direction that we're headed is just to arrive at an idea. And there are a little bit more, there are a few more things that we can do to help us sort through these clues and say, this one could fit and this one could fit. What would that be? I don't know. I'm getting curious about it. And we're going to start brainstorming more and more ways that we can get paid for these things, because we might not even see what the possibilities are. And Cathy already said this. Cathy already said she sees the possibilities of business in all of these lists. I for sure do. I know Angela does. I know every single one of our mentors do. I know our ambassadors do. There are 32 people here who are like, we can see infinite possibilities everywhere. But I also know that many of you can see this too. And if you're not there yet, that's okay too. We're all just working toward this process, okay? Cathy, is there anything that you want to share specifically about Ikigai? Okay.
Yes. First of all, Ikigai, such an incredible thing, because the more you look at, the octogenarians, the people who live the longest, what do we find? We find that people stay on this planet longer when we have a purpose for being here. Okay. And so Ikigai is really the question. It's not what do you do? Who do you do it for? Why do you do it? The people can answer the question, what do I do, all the time, but is it your Ikigai? Is it really the thing that lights you up, that you know why you do it, that you're excited about? Of course you can figure that out. When Melissa says we're going to find an idea, I want you to think about a knitted sweater that when you just pull the thread, the whole thing comes out. We're going to look for a way in. We're pulling on a thread. If you went back and looked at our Made to Do This students, we did this program 3 times last year. Over, 1,200 people graduated from the program. The majority of them started with an idea and pivoted and pivoted and pivoted. But the only way they got to where they were is because they started with something. You have to start with something in order to get to where you're going. So we have to release, oh my God, at the end of the week, I have to know what I want to be paid for the rest of my life. No, For the rest of the program, no. How about a place to start? Let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. It's about starting. It's about getting into action. All of the clarity is in the action anyway. We have to test it. We have to try it. When Barbara Corcoran was on my podcast, I said, what do you tell people on Shark Tank? She said, I only have 2 questions. I love that you have an idea. Did you bring it to a human? And was there a human who wanted it? And were they willing to pay for it? The answer, my friends, is what can I be paid for is you don't know until you move it into the world. So we have to start somewhere, and we have to get excited about being a C student and getting messy and saying, let's try this thing. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think about one of the things that came up on the page more than once, or came up on the page once, but for some reason you circled it and went, I just like it. I just would, God, yeah, if I could make a whole life around being in the outdoors, I would. I want you to look for evidence that there's somebody in the world right now making a living around that thing. And so you can do this one of 2 ways. You can think of what that idea, what's at the center of the idea, at least for today. What is it today? Is it speaking, telling stories? Is it outdoors? Is it cheese boards? And I want you to ask the question, who else is already doing something with that? Who else could I find in the world just so I can start to see possibilities? And if you can't find it yourself, post it in the Facebook group. Does anyone know anyone who makes a living with floral arrangements? Does anyone know anyone who makes a living with breath work? Does anyone know anyone who makes a living with making space for people? What does that look like? You're going to start getting, oh, I'm seeing now beyond the limiting box of what I saw before. That's a good thing. We are going to spend more time on our implementation call diving in and looking at things. But please, please understand, if you understand the data of how we actually arrive at an answer, it's only through doing. So we want you to start with an idea. And if you would like to, and we'll do this again on Thursday, revisit the 5 ways that in the 5-day challenge, which I will repeat now, I shared with you, you can make a living. What are those ways? You can make a thing. You can be a maker. You could teach a thing. You could create an online course. You can create a workshop. You can teach scrapbooking. You can be a maker. You could be a teacher. You can do a service-based business. You can do something for someone, design their website, create their logos. You can go in their closet and put their colors together and tell them what colors really light up their face. You can put makeup on a person. You can cut someone's hair. You can organize their home. Maker, teacher, service provider. What next? You can curate memberships. You could love a topic. You could say, I used to work in a comedy club and I don't perform comedy, but I love comedy. And I would like to create a virtual comedy club. We know someone in one of our past groups that did that. She wound up getting thousands of people into this group and she makes a living. Like, she can't believe that she makes money. Like, now having comics come in over Zoom, that's a membership. You can create a membership around DIY crafting. You can create a membership around gardening. You can create a membership around being a dog owner. And there's a million things. Okay, so maker, teacher, service provider, memberships, creating communities, right? That could also be creating experiences, retreats, dinners, virtual summits, right? Last one would be content creation, right? You could dedicate an entire Instagram feed to people who make indie home batch farm to table foods. And you just become the place where you're just looking at that. You're assimilating that kind of content. You're obsessed with it. Or you're going to create a podcast all about pottery and potters and different kinds of glazes. And that's going to start leading you to a place where now you have audience and you turn that audience into currency because you sell a thing to your audience, maybe which looks like just affiliating for the people who show up in your content. This person's on your blog, you put a link to what this person sells, you make a cut of that. This person's on your podcast, they drop a link to the course that they have, you make a cut of that. Let's let the how go for a while on the side, but let's look at these 5 models and let's see if we can look at all the swirling goodness that we poured out today and start with an idea and know that we can come back and change and pivot and all of those things, and that we will. but we're going to pick an idea. And yeah, you can pick 2. And I will tell you, the good news is that ultimately, when you're really, really creative, if you want to be really, really creative and really, really successful, you get to be multi-hyphenate. So I do all of those things except for service-based business. I do all of those things. I create content. I have a daily podcast. I just got my 2nd book deal. I love creating content, telling stories, compiling stories, giving a platform to other people to share their stories. Oh my God, I love that. And the podcast itself makes a lot of money just from now advertising, but also from other collaborations that come. People say, if I'm on your show and I'd love to be on your show, I'd love to talk about the program I'm doing, and you can affiliate for it, or you can this, or you can that. I get paid to speak at places because of this podcast. It's amazing. It gave me all this authority. And next to my name is no letter. There's no PhD, MD. It's just Cathy Heller. Okay. So I create content. I teach, right? I love teaching. I do live events when it's not COVID. I do retreats. Love doing that. I love putting those kinds of things together. I do online summits, right? And I make things. I still write music. I like to write music. I like to sit down and write a song and make a song for a Netflix show or a movie. It's fun. I like doing all of those things. You
Hey,
can,
Cathy.
yeah.
In the chat, people are saying, how do you do all of these things and not burn out? How do you do it all at once? I love a lot of things. And the answer, I know what you're going to say, but here's my guess, is that you don't do them all at once. You start with just one and then you build from there.
Yeah,
What would you say?
that's the whole thing, is like, you go all in with your enthusiasm and get this thing off the ground. And once it's steady, then you move over here. It's like, if there's, a child and she's crying and right now she needs your attention, you wait till she's calmed down and then you move to the second kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then what's nice is once she's good, then the second one is good. Now you have another one. And then it's kind of like sitting in front of a stove where there's 4 different burners and you just kept checking in on the pots. And that's what I do all week long in my own life now. I'm like, oh, how's my content pot doing? Cool. All right, that's cool. By the way, Priyanka Chopra is on the podcast today. Go get a listen. It's awesome. Or I'll check in on my maker pot. Oh, how am I feeling? Am I feeling inspired to make something today? Is there anything I want to do about that? Okay. I go over here to my next pot. How's our courses doing? What else we want to make? What would be so fun? What would feel so good? Do we want to create a live event? I'm like constantly checking in on the pots. And as one is simmering and good, you can move on to the next one. Also, you'll keep hearing me say this. I don't do anything with an expectation to be an A student. Nothing, 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 zero, nothing. So it allows me the freedom to just be like, okay, good. I did that. Done is better than perfect. Get it done, get it done, get it done. Iterate, iterate, iterate. Worry about perfect way later. You're nowhere near ready to master perfect. Just start being in process and it starts to become pretty darn good. But that helps free up a lot of bandwidth because there's no expectation of being perfect. I want to leave you with this quote, and then Melissa, you can wrap up with any kind of homework. But in Dead Poet Society, which is one of my favorite movies, Robin Williams' character says to the boys, Mr. Keating says, medicine, business, law, engineering, these are noble pursuits and they're necessary. They're necessary to sustain life. But art and poetry and romance, that's what we stay alive for. So when you all wrote the things that broke your heart, do you know how much you could create doing something enjoyable, creative, fun, feel good, holding space, doing something that lifts people, that breaks people into a place where they're getting out of the loneliness and into connection? Yes, yes, you can. Absolutely. If you want to make something that's more like business and law and engineering and something people need, that's also great. There are people who like doing that. They want to solve those kinds of problems. They want to organize somebody's desk or bookkeep or be a virtual assistant or create a whole virtual assistant agency or what. Also great. Also easy to do. No problem. But to think that you're going to discount the beauty and the romance and the art of the things that you might be called to make just because you don't think that they are, hardcore to what we need to survive and breathe in and out every day. No, we don't live just to breathe in and out every day. We breathe in and out so we're living for something beautiful, something incredible, something heartwarming, and all of those things are solving a problem. Patty, I'm trying to mute you, but I can't. Just mute yourself. All right, so Melissa, I'm throwing it back to you. This was such a great session. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being all in. Really, really good stuff. And as we move through, we are really going to try to keep this to 90 minutes. But I feel that in the beginning, it's always a little bit necessary to push a little bit more momentum till you get going up the hill. And so I felt that you guys could have used a little more dropping in today, which is why, you know, what's annoying is I can't always mute everybody. So, but thank you guys. For the most part, it was pretty quiet and you guys are amazing. And I know if it happens, it's embarrassing and you don't mean it and you're not being blamed. Melissa, back to you.
Yes. Okay. We are going to spend some time reflecting and connecting on today's session so that we can move into our week continuing to uncover. Okay. So that's our whole goal for going into the week, is continuing to uncover and just saying, I want to try this thing, whatever that thing is. And we'll continue to walk you through that process throughout the rest of the week. Okay. So pen to paper again, you're going to see, I'm going to ask you to write a lot during these 12 weeks. I want you to ask yourself this question and write it in your paper first, and then I'll ask you to share in the chat in a little bit. What is something that surprised me today? Or something that surprised me today was? Something that surprised me today was. Go ahead and write that in your notes. Okay, and if you feel comfortable, you can go ahead and type what you wrote in the chat. Something that surprised me today was how much I care about the collective, that the answer is really within me, that I like sharing the mess, that pivots are good, that I don't have to wait to do it. Many ideas came up, viable or not. So good. Ikigai. Okay. Deep commitment. Wonderful. Okay. Next sentence. I want you to finish this sentence. Okay. In your notes first. I am feeling excited to. I am feeling excited to. And when you feel ready, you can type it in the chat if you want to. I'm excited to get started, to tune into my heart, to do a thing. Love it. To get paid to be a life coach, to see where the process takes me, to explore and be curious, to pick something, to start my first draft. You guys get it.
These are really good. You guys totally get it.
You totally get it. Okay. Next sentence I want you to answer or to finish in your notes. I can't wait to. I can't wait to. I cannot wait to quit my 9 to 5. There you go. I cannot wait to find my first customer. I cannot wait to bounce ideas off my pod. I cannot wait to make my first dollar. Oh, you guys. I cannot wait to get my C. It's awesome. I cannot wait to feel validated. I cannot wait to meet with my pod. I love it. Okay, next one. Answering your notes first so you have a record of this. I will stay open to learning by. I will stay open to learning by doing what?
Showing up.
Thanks, Cathy. Showing up, asking questions, reaching out, surrendering, plugging in, doing the thing, not judging and staying curious. You guys totally get it. This is why we wanted to leave you with this, so that you are empowered for that next step, which is this next question. Okay. Write it in your notes first so you have a record. My next step is. My next step is, and write it in your notes first. And when you feel comfortable, you can write it in the chat if you do feel comfortable. My next step is doing the homework. My next step is opening the hidden part of my website. Oh, I'm curious about that. My next step is dipping my toe into the river, going for a walk, reviewing my lists, more brain dumping, buying a printer. My next step is announcing my launch, somebody who's deeper or further along in the journey with their idea, reviewing my notes, finding my joy, outlining a plan, testing ideas. Okay, my next step is arriving at an idea, making time to paint every day. You know the next right step for you. So, but if you feel like, no, I don't know that, ask yourself, what's the next right thing for me in this moment? It might be dancing. It might be taking a nap. It might be talking to your pod. It might be praying and meditating. It might be more brain dumping and journaling. If you feel stuck, we have journal prompts and things to do to help you get unstuck in your student portal. Okay. Ayana, Angel, and her ambassador team are the mentor of the day today. Or Ayana is the mentor of the day, and her ambassador team is there to support her to respond to questions in the Facebook group. In the Facebook group, you will see that there is a picture that Ayana has posted. It's also linked into our announcements. If you're coming up with questions, if you want to say like, hey, does anybody know of somebody who like has like this random floral delivery service because I'm thinking about such and such or whatever, and you're trying to find somebody who does a business that you think, nah, that's so out of the box, I can't imagine somebody's getting paid for that, type it in that mentor of the day post. And we're all going to be looking there and supporting, and Ayana and her team are on it for your mentor of the day today. And then we're going to be continuing to walk you through this journey this week of putting the pieces together, looking at the clues and saying, this could be something that I try to bring through that business framework process right now for this moment. I might choose something different in the future. I might pivot next week, but I'm choosing something in this moment. Okay. We have support set up all throughout the week to support you through that.
And when we show up for our implementation sessions on Thursday, remember there's one at 4 a.m., noon, and 5 p.m.
Yeah, 8 p.m.
Yeah, I always forget because of the time difference. So
yeah,
4, 12, and 8, all Eastern time. When we show up for that, we want you to have done this work. So some of you did it today, which is great. And if you already did it and you're like, I already did it, well, maybe go back to it and then take a highlighter so that when you show up, because there will be breakout sessions during the implementation call, and you will want to take with you some of those clues so you get the most out of it. So your homework is to have done this, but to go back to it if you haven't, or if any of you have, and circle or highlight whatever you're starting to pull out, and just trust it. It could be that what you're pulling out is not the greatest thing that lights you up, but it feels easy to start. And you're like, that feels like where I want to be going right now. What feels easy? Great. Start with something like that. Let's take the overwhelm out of it. Because I promise you, if you stay with this kind of high vibration energy, you're going to be led to exactly where you need to be to serve at the greatest level. And it will be yummy and delicious, even if you start with something that you're like, well, I don't know if it's this, but if it's a reason and it's easy to start it there. Start it there. It's going to get really exciting and really fun really fast. Even Seth Godin has found a way to make marketing feel really alive and really fun, because that is what felt easy for him to start doing because he understood it. But it's not marketing. He's literally like a professor, a philosopher, like yummy best friend you never had, who takes you down this rabbit hole of storytelling. And it's like marketing. Whatever you begin to do, it's going to be awesome. So show up on Thursday with notes that you've written, because my friend Jim Quick says, we take notes, but then we make notes. And that's where the power is. So I want you to go back and look at the notes that you were taking. And what notes can you be making about the notes you took? If I said something, if Melissa said something, if you said something, if you said something else, if you said something else, what notes can you now make about the notes you took? And when you show up on Thursday, we can then integrate that more. We can put you into breakout rooms more. And then we'll start moving into the next step next week. And you don't have to feel like you're left behind, because we're going to keep going back and going forward and going back and going forward and massaging this until we just start moving closer and closer into something that feels good and aligned? Are you feeling like you're actually getting out of what feels bad and into something that feels more open, more expansive? Good. We are so genuinely present with you right now. The reason I do this work is because I love it. This is not, you, I'm sure, can tell that me showing up twice a week in a program for 2 hours a time, I don't have to do it that way, right? I love being here. There's nowhere else in the world I want to be right now. I'm so excited to be with you. And I love doing the work because I am certain with every cell in my body that this awakening, that this breakthrough is right here for you. And I love the process of transformation for myself as well as for you. And I'm here, and Melissa and my whole team, we are all made of the same thing: genuine, empathetic, big hearts. And sure, it costs us heartbreaking sometimes, right? Because we have a lot of empathy, costs us extra time. Worth it, and worth it. We are here with you. So together, we're going to keep walking across this river. And I encourage you to do those 15 minutes of freedom, because it is so hard to walk into the future when you are memorizing the past every day. It's really hard, and you're not alone in it. I wake up and hit my resistance every day. I go, there's that familiar feeling. What is that? It's called, Cathy, your parents got divorced and had a pretty horrible marriage, and you're not over it. Oh, great. Oh, yeah, that's what that is. It's like if I was a diabetic and I just decided, I'm so done taking insulin. I'm so over it. It's so exhausting. It's like, no, you don't get to do that, but you can be with it, right? So I've learned to be with my stuff every morning, and then I go, let's just shine this up, feel what we need to feel, and move it into where we actually want to go. And look at me, little by little, I'm a little less insane. Okay, so we're going into the week. We're excited. Melissa, I love you. I wish I could hug you. And my whole team is amazing. You have a mentor of the day every day. Ask your questions, do your thing. I will see you Thursday.
Thanks, Cathy and Melissa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
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 Have a good week.
Thank you.